What a lovely day to be live on YouTube with PowerShell Wednesday. What up, everybody? It's PowerShell Wednesday. Every single Wednesday at this time, we're going to be here talking about PowerShell, and you might as well be with us or check out the recordings afterwards. But today we have a very special episode. We do these every single Wednesday, but this time we have some sideline reporters. I don't know if you guys watch sports, but they have the headsets, the whole thing, the coaches, they throw the clipboards. Well, we got two of those live from Workplace Ninjas US, which is a new conference that's just kicking off for the first time in the United States, Dallas, Texas. Danny Stutz, Frank Lesniak, welcome to PowerShell Wednesday. What up?
What's up, guys?
What's up, everyone? Hey, how you doing?
Dude, what can we get a little rating in the chat? What do we think about the awesome new headphone thingy? What would we call it? Mic 2-in-1?
I feel like a college football coach, to be honest.
Yeah,
I feel like I should be calling some plays out here or something,
Yep, 100%.
Large and in charge. I like that. Sounds pretty good, to be honest with you. My video looks good. It's not like tweaking around, right? I see some flippiness on my end.
No, you're good. Your mic's
Sweet.
good. Your video's good too.
Let's click on that screen share button, make sure that gets going, and we can look at a couple things. But while you do that, I want to talk a little bit. So it is now Wednesday, obviously PowerShell Wednesday, but how many more days of the conference do you have? When did you get there? Like, give me the lay of the land here real quick.
Yeah, I'll do that while Danny's clicking around. So the conference started unofficially on Monday with a hackathon, which, by the way, our team won second place in the hackathon. We can talk a bit about that if you want. Pretty happy with that. The actual conference is a 2-day conference with 2 days of sessions. Today's the second day, so last day, unfortunately. We ran all day yesterday, and running all day today, and then that's it. It's a shorter one.
So what talks have we given? You guys talked yet, or we still got things coming up?
We're done with our talks.
We're done.
What, you wanna cover them?
Yeah. So
Okay.
our first one we had yesterday was at like 10. So we had kind of another session similar to like what we had at PowerShell DevOps School Summit. We had to just talk around, using LLMs, generated PowerShell scripts, some new features in GitHub CoPilot. Just kind of a framework for people to use to, basically generate PowerShell scripts, especially if they're newer, right? I mean, a lot of people are just kind of getting into it, don't know much about it. And it's like using LLMs is a huge way to kind of accelerate people's ability to write PowerShell and like write some actually like good scripts and things that are going to be useful for them. So we did that one.
Cool.
Yeah. So we'll be showing off some stuff today, like GitHub Copilot, some of the new features there, kind of how it's evolved since at least like we talked about it last time, and then.
We also one quick plug is the AI landscape is changing constantly. So this presentation we delivered yesterday would have been very different than a presentation we would have delivered 2 weeks prior. So we got some cool very current takes on what the latest and greatest stuff is with LLMs. So we can share some of that.
Yep.
And then you want to talk about your second session yesterday? It was not really PowerShell.
No, it wasn't really PowerShell. It was more Microsoft 365 Intra kind of focus, but it was more around just kind of top 25 security tips for admins of Entra and Microsoft 365 Intune. So did that with we did that with Evelina. She's awesome. So we presented twice together. So we did that one yesterday.
Is this a coworker or somebody from the conference?
Someone from the conference. She's Evelina. I will say her name. I'm not gonna try. She's from Poland, but she lives in Ireland. She's a Purview MVP actually. So she is one of, I want to say, 6 Purview MVPs that exist. So she is quite well versed in the Purview space. And so and she works for a company called Threatscape, and so they do a lot of cybersecurity and stuff like that. As well as mainly she's in the main data governance Purview lead. So it's been awesome to meet her, meeting a lot of cool people. Meryl's here.
You get some of those teasers too? Some
Yeah.
teasers of some tips and stuff too? Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
Is there, I know it is PowerShell, but we all use PowerShell for different things. And I think there's a lot of people rocking Microsoft 365 and stuff out here. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I can go through a couple of those quick tips, maybe we could do some demos, and I can definitely go through a couple of kind of quick tips, at least the ones we had, we can send it out to people, but it'll also be on Evelina's blog, because she's Velka's World is the name of her blog basically. So it's she does a lot of Purview stuff, but also Entra ID, Microsoft 365 tips. So that's a big part of kind of her platform, and she's awesome. She's sweet.
Definitely shout her out. Some links in the description. If you're watching this after the show, you'll see some cool stuff in there to follow all the people we're talking about, including our lovely esteemed guests here today.
Appreciate
All
that.
right, so that's.
Appreciate that.
Is
We
there
had
more
two
that
more
we need to
sessions.
cover? Oh,
We had two
more.
more.
Holy, these guys are busy.
quick.
Yeah, real quick. I will be brief. I did one with Donnie Taylor yesterday on agentic AI. So and other like ways to automate your workday. Actually, the first thing we showed up was not agentic AI. It was using M365 CoPilot's facilitator feature to automate like the process of like keeping you on track during meetings and taking notes and things like that. I've actually got a couple of videos pre-recorded that are up on YouTube that Andrew, I can work with you and get some links in case anybody is not familiar with that feature. But I was actually really surprised. I thought it'd be like a 3-minute demo and onto the sexy agentic AI stuff. And we actually had we were talking on that topic for probably like 8 minutes. Like people were super curious, super interested in that. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with Facilitator, and you've got or interested in getting M365 Copilot licenses, you should definitely check that out. And then we showed a couple other things related to like GitHub Copilot agents, which we can show some of that here today if we have time. Donnie had a really good demo with using N8N, which is a nice agentic AI platform, and a couple other things I'll gloss over. And then Danny, you had one last session today. You want to mention that?
Yeah, and the last one we had was around preventing shadow AI, as we're calling it, effectively, right? Where a lot of people are obviously getting up to speed on LLMs. Everyone's using ChatGPT, Gemini, right? Pasting in public, private information in public LLMs, secrets, client documents, all that jazz. So it's how do you kind of control that sprawl, and like what are some methods to control that sprawl, at least within like the Microsoft ecosystem, like M365 Copilot's been a big thing. So basically, how do you lock that down? How do you lock down people from accessing LLMs they shouldn't be, and kind of what are some strategies around identifying that and maintaining it?
All right, so we're talking about a lot of nerdy stuff, and okay, so you know the tech side, but one thing I'd like to share. Hey, no, it's good stuff. We're here for nerdy stuff. But one thing I'd like to share is that, what do you all do for your day job? I obviously know, but let's give you a chance to explain it, because you do have a bit of an interesting perspective on this technology being applied and being actually used by like the proper enterprise. But what do you guys do for a living?
Yeah, I guess I'll start and then you can pepper in, Danny. So I lead our Microsoft 365 team at West Monroe. We do a lot of things in Microsoft 365, but the number one thing we really focus on is corporate M&A. So doing divestitures and integrations, that sort of thing. And so that really our big value differentiator is that we come in and we get these projects done. We do them well, of course. I'm not going to tell you differently, but we do them really well. But we also get them done quickly, and that's our big value differentiator. And so because of that, we lean in a lot on PowerShell and other forms of automation like Terraform, M365 DSC to get those types of projects done quickly. Of course, we do a lot of other stuff. Danny, you especially, I think, work in a lot more areas, a lot more varying areas than I do. You want to talk a little bit about some of that?
Yeah. So in addition to working on M365 team with Frank, I also do a lot of Azure, AWS, and Databricks work. So I do a lot of modern data platforms for clients using Databricks. So I've been implementing, these big modern data platforms for clients over the past, year and a half or so. So using a lot of, automation, a lot of Terraform to build out all the infrastructure in AWS and Azure, build it up to standards, because our company's one of the bigger Databricks partners. So we help a lot with implementing Databricks and working in that area. So it's very cool. I mean, it's ingesting anything from like business data, like sales information, order information, ERP information, all into one kind of unified data platform for business AI effectively, because they're one of the bigger leaders in AI. So doing a lot of that, but yeah, a lot of corporate M&A, doing a lot of enterprise IT is another one of my kind of specialties. So, got a lot of skills. We do a lot here. We do a lot.
Okay. Getting the hands dirty, getting some actual exposure with the technology. That's awesome. And seeing things used in multiple different environments is always awesome.
Wow,
that's right. A couple questions before we proceed into some screen sharing goodness. Were these talks recorded?
They were not. The materials will be available online, but they were not recorded.
That is Frank's way of saying be there or be square.
Yeah. I actually prefer when they're recorded, but they weren't in this case.
Yeah, unfortunately not. This is the first year they're doing it, so I mean, I think maybe like next year, hopefully they get some recordings going. But I think that's something we could talk to John about for next year.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Someone's asking for your contact info. You guys are good salesmen, I guess. They appreciate it.
I guess so.
They know what they're doing. Yeah. I'll
Exactly.
hook up with them afterwards. Yeah. Frank, Lesniak, and Danny Stutz. If you look them both up, you can find them probably on LinkedIn. But I'll have some links to their stuff in the show notes as well. All right, boys, let's share some screen and get looking at some things, because you whetted our whistle with a litany of very interesting topics. with
Yeah.
a lot of kind of easy wins along the way and some kind of ponderings, some musings we could have about the future in our workflows. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kick us off here. So we're gonna kick us off with a little bit of introduction to GitHub CoPilot and some of the new features that have come out recently, at least within the past, year. So I was actually at AWS reInvent last week in Vegas, and I was stopped at the GitHub CoPilot, booth, and kind of got some tips on some new things that have come out for it. So I think one of the bigger things that's come out is the agent mode for GitHub Copilot. So I think a lot of the times, people are thinking like GitHub Copilot is really just a, chat completion tool, right? Like it just completes like your sentences or whatever code you're writing, right? But now it's kind of gotten a lot more integrated with your actual IDE. So I'm using VS Code here, and so I wanted to show, how you can use it to generate some pretty good scripts, at least from, just kind of prompting. So I'm gonna go in here. Let's see. What do we want to make, Frank? Let's have like a generate a script for pulling all inactive users from Entra ID. Please, please use the Microsoft Graph PowerShell module. So this is just kind of a simple prompt, right? I mean, where this is just a very simple prompt. You could probably put this in ChatGPT and get a similar result. But a lot of what is new in GitHub Copilot is its integration with your repository. So it can get a lot of references from a lot of the files inside of your folders and repositories. So we'll just generate this and see what it says. But as you can see in the bottom left here, we got agent mode, ask, edit. So agent mode is new. So now it's going to do some things where you'll go through. You can see all the steps it's going through, right? So it's going to read existing scripts inside of the folder. It's going to show basically a lot of the steps it's taking to generate the script. It's you can provide obviously a lot more context to give better script output, right? So one of the things we talked about in our talk was the roles framework, which is really role, like what is the AI agent or what is the LLM supposed to be? And is it like a PowerShell expert, Microsoft 365 expert, right? What's its objective? So what's the actual prompt? Like, what do we want it to do, right? Like generate a script. Like that's a very objective thing to do. Like I need you to do this, X, Y, and Z. And so that's part of the
I'm
prompt.
gonna pull up the slide.
Yeah.
I
think pulling up the slide would help.
Yeah.
Let me see.
can we make it a little? Oh, I guess with the slide, it might be a little bit bigger.
Slides a little bigger. Yeah, but I will zoom in on VS Code. We'll let that generate for a second. We'll pull up a slide here from our talk that we actually gave. So you're getting a little bit of our talk here, Jake. So keep that in mind. We'll sneak peek. We'll do a little one-off session for y'all who's all watching right now. So yeah, pull it up. Hilton Wi-Fi is struggling a little bit this weekend.
Well, you pack 300 nerds in a small space, right?
This
is what happens.
This is exactly what happens. All right, let's get down here. Let's see. So going on to taking a little bit of time. That's okay. Here it is.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No Templify. I don't want you right here right now. I'm gonna escape. It's very slow right now.
Yeah.
It's okay though. We're dealing with it. It's trying its best.
We got a graphics designer up in here, man. Look at this.
Well, shout out that this is an AI talk that we gave here, right? So shout out to Gemini. Gemini is really, really good at image generation. As long as you give it a good prompt and explain what you're trying to do.
You look at the star in the bottom right here.
Yeah, that's really yeah.
Little Gemini symbol.
Little telltale sign, yeah.
I was genuinely surprised by Gemini's ability to generate slides like this, especially since I'm more used to ChatGPT's style of it's very good at coding. We talk about this a little bit in our talk, but Gemini is very good at creating human readable slides and text, right? Stuff that you can actually read and make sense. Yeah, we built a lot of these slides using prompts and stuff. So just kind of speed things up, but also get our ideas across too. It's not just slop of we don't agree with these things. A lot of this was based on our ideas, right?
Oh, it was all our ideas, right? We basically gave it an outline of what we were trying to explain in the slide, and it created a slide.
Yeah. So, and so getting back to the roles framework as we call it, right? you have we talked about role, we talked about objective, what are you trying to do, and then the last L, E, and S, logic,
Not just
constraints,
Lesniak.
logic, constraints, examples, style. So this is all context for getting a better output from your LLM, whichever one you're using, right? Context provides a lot of like, hey, I want this design this way. You know, here's an example of something I've used in the past. I like this style. Like this is the way I want it written, right? It gives you the LLM the ability to give you a better output, right? Because a lot of the times if you just ask like a simple one-liner like we had just done, right? It won't have all of the context of like how you typically code things or how you typically write scripts and stuff like that, right? As well as saying, hey, I want to use like as you had saw, I gave it a constraint of I want to use the Microsoft.graph module, right? As opposed to like the Azure AD module or the MS Online module, right? Because sometimes, like especially with older LLM models, they're like, oh yeah, like this is still in date, like this is still supported, and it's not.
Or it might, maybe it'll use the Microsoft.graph module, but it'll start making direct API calls instead of using the command list, which we don't want it to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people are good with that. I don't prefer that personally.
Yeah, no, same here. Some stuff in like the Graph API hasn't been translated to a PowerShell command line yet, so sometimes you do need to do it. Because I had like a script where I had to have like when I was pulling the compliance policies assigned to each device and for the inside of Intune, we had to use a direct API call to basically get the compliance status for each of the devices. There are cases where it happens, but yeah, it's like generally speaking, yeah, use the PowerShell SDK, right? So for the MS Graph. All right, let's get back here to our script. Let's see what happened. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna keep. So as you can see, it went through all of its steps here. It's gonna give an overview of the script now too. So this is all this new agent mode, right? It gives you a lot of like detailed instructions on like what do you need to install, how do you run this, right? I think that's a big question for a lot of people. Is like, okay, I have this script now. How do I like run it? What do I need to do to like run it and like what is it doing, right? So GitHub Copilot now gives in agent mode especially gives you a lot of this information just kind of right out of the gate. You don't have to like ask it to do that, like or you know you can set it up to maybe not work this way if you want it that way. But as you can see, it generated a script. It says one file's changed. So let's see, it generated a new script. So I'm just going to say keep.
And was this made with the roles framework that you showed earlier, or was this just random?
This one was kind of more random, but this has, so that's the thing is like with GitHub Copilot, you get a lot of like that context and examples from your repository. So like it scanned basically like our repository here to see, okay, like how do you generally want things set up, right? So for example, this parameter export path, we use that all the time. Like that's one of our that's the name.
It's looking real familiar.
Do not check for module updates, right? It's using a lot, and look, it even copied over
our license. Yeah,
it even copied over our license and everything, right? It's actually using your install module function or install required modules function.
Yeah, funny.
Right? So it's installing required modules, connecting to the graph, and then it runs and does its actual script, right? But look how detailed this is, right? So it's very comprehensive in terms of how much it's generating, like how do we want things styled, right? And so it's very cool in that sense. And one of the other really cool things I think about GitHub Copilot that's a little bit newer is the inline editing. So I think a lot of people face a challenge of, okay, I'm going to ChatGPT, I'm going to generate my script there, I'm going to copy the code, all the code, put it into my little code file, and then I'm going to run it. And then say they run into an error, right? Then they're like, okay, now I got to take that, run it back to ChatGPT in the web, and then I gotta, whatever it comes back with, I have to copy it back in. The best part about GitHub Copilot is that it can do that error handling as well as making updates to the script inline. So you no longer have to kind of copy between and wonder like, oh, like what was changed? Like what lines do I need to copy? You don't have to ask a ChatGPT to do that. GitHub Copilot can do all of that, and it has lots of different models, right?
I feel like because of that approach you just mentioned, it almost feels like you are more included in the creation rather than just a copy pasta. You can't, no feedback, no ability to run things. Like you're part of that now.
Exactly. And that's, I think, where it's huge. It's like it's like an interactive developer experience where you're a part of that process. You're not just copying and pasting. You're saying, hey, I want to do, I basically want to basically edit a file or I want to make some updates to it, and it'll do it. So let's say, okay, actually, can you update our script to get only people who have been inactive in the past 90 days? In the past 90 days. So let's see what it does. But this will just kind of show you the capability of that inline editing ability. And it'll basically, it's going to go through the agent mode again. It's going to work. It's going to figure out, okay, what do I need to change, right? It'll explain all the steps to you. And then once it's done, we'll be able to keep the changes. So there's like a little button to keep the change, which I think is awesome. For me, in our hackathon yesterday, actually, Monday, we had used pretty much exclusively, I think, GitHub CoPilot to make we had to make a web application that was basically for like matching people up based on their communication preferences.
Yeah, so a big part of this conference, one of the big themes is inclusion or inclusivity, and specifically, well, not specifically, but especially related to things like ADHD, autism. People who have those situations going on. This conference is meant to be very inclusive of those folks. This is like one of the key themes or key tenets. And so for the hackathon, the prompt, if you will, was to, like Danny said, to design a web app and or Copilot agent that collected employee preferences for communication styles, collaboration styles, and I think physical workspace related items. Collect all that information and then do matchmaking between folks. So like it would show you what other folks have similar work styles. So we can kind of show. We used Spark for that ultimately. I can show what that looks like when Danny's done with this.
Yeah. I think something interesting to call out, as you were saying that, I was looking and I was seeing it actually put the script that we generated in the correct folder.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool.
So I was actually in this folder and so I made new testing PS1 under Intune Autopilot, but it detected, it was like, hey, you have an identity folder that has a lot of scripts that are doing a similar thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is all going back to the point of, it has context. GitHub Copilot has a lot of context on your repository. So if you're storing all your scripts somewhere, right, it can use that as stylistic guiding for how it should generate a script, right?
One of the things, Danny, that you showed with this that really stuck with me, and actually I don't think I've told you this. I've sort of run with something that you shared. So one of the things you can do is you can give Copilot agent its own instructions. And that got me thinking, going back to the roles framework for a quick second. I know that's not zoomed in, but the style piece over here on the right? We didn't really talk about code style and the way we want things written. So if you have a certain style of the way you like code to be written, and maybe you're not working in an existing repository, it doesn't have that context. I was thinking on that, like, boy, you know what irritates me the most, Andrew, is like when I'm using AI to generate code, and it's using ridiculous variable names that just don't make any sense. Things like $X.
Yeah.
Right.
For int and I and J.
Yeah. It's just, that's not how I write code. And when I'm trying to do, one of the, we didn't get into this, but we talked a little bit about security and why it's important to do code reviews with LLM generated code and also do testing and all that. Of course, right? We can all probably relate to that. But one of the things that I personally get distracted on when I'm reviewing AI generated code is like, if it just doesn't follow my style and the variable names don't make any sense, I have a really hard time genuinely reviewing that code and understanding what's happening. And you can ask the LLM to explain it, of course, but like to do that quickly is annoying when it doesn't match your style. So Danny, I'm going to freewheel this for a quick second. I'm going to go over to, where's your private browser window? Is it Chrome?
Chrome. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm signed in as me here on Danny's laptop, and I'm going to go over to, go over to my GitHub. And if I go to repositories, get a virtual drum roll here. I created this PS style guide. What I did is I generated this based on, I basically told a few different LLMs that they are forensic analysts that are specialized in reviewing code. And I fed it a bunch of scripts I personally wrote. And I said, please describe this person's code writing style in sort of a forensic way. So I got these forensic reports. I synthesized them into a unified report. I made some edits. I've been working on this in the background for a little while. But basically, I have this style guide put together that describes in detail how I write PowerShell code. Some of it is like normal community, leading practice stuff. It's not going to surprise you. Some of it you might not agree with. I write a lot of backwards compatible PowerShell, and that gets a bit unique. So anyway, so I've got that style guide, and that's available for use. But one of the things I wanted to do is have it automatically generate this Copilot instructions markdown file ready to go. So if you are like, I want to write code like Frank Lesniak for some reason, you can. I've got some. Where is it? I've got some lightweight instructions in here. Yeah, here we go. Copilot instructions.md, drop in ready for Copilot custom instructions. Copy this to your repository's GitHub folder. So you can, in your repository, create a .github folder right at the root, and you can drop in this Copilot instructions markdown file ready to go. It's basically, it's the same thing as the style guide here. The style guide's kind of the main copy. This is just making a renamed, ready to go version of that. And then I also have a style guide that's chat ready. So if you're working with like ChatGPT in an interactive prompt, and you view the raw file here, I think you'll appreciate what I'm talking about here. I wrapped this in a markdown code fence. I need to make a couple modifications to this. I've got in flight, so this will be wrapped a little bit differently. But the idea is that if you're sitting there typing a prompt, and maybe it's pretty detailed, and you've got different sections and stuff like that, effectively your prompt is markdown. If you want to paste this in, you can do that without messing up anything you've already got in your prompt. So a couple different ways to use the style guide, inspired by Mr. Stutz here. So thanks for the idea, Danny.
The one, the only. The one, the only. Yeah.
What do you want to show next?
Yeah. Let's go back here. So I think kind of jumping back in. So last time, just kind of catching everybody up, we had asked it, hey, can you make an edit to the script? I just want to see the last 90 days, right? So it made some key changes. It told me what it changed, right? And we made a couple iterations too. If you see, it made a couple different edits on a couple different lines. So now if we look actually in, our actual code, right? So now it highlights it very similar like a pull request or a merge request, basically. Like if you're pulling down changes, it identifies those changes. So it's like, here's what I changed. Right, we can kind of scroll through and be like, okay, yep, it changed it to 180 days. Set the inactive days. It added a variable there. Now let's go down here. So as you can see, it's basically adjusted the script, or we can assume that it adjusted the script to look for users in the last 90 days. So we're like, okay, those changes will look good. Let's keep it. So we keep it, and we make those changes directly inside of the script, right? So that was kind of like my main point of like, you're now more empowered to use LLMs within your IDE. Because I mean, me personally, it's like I'm not developing in PowerShell ISE anymore. As much as I do love ISE, VS Code, and I think a couple other IDEs have this natively integrated. You have to pay for it, obviously, GitHub CoPilot, but it has it integrated in the IDE, so you can make those like script edits in line, and it's really nice for error handling too. Because if you run a script technically from within here, let's maybe say, let's CD to this path. If you get an error in your script while it's running inside of your VS Code instance, GitHub Copilot will detect like, oh, you tried to run the script for the first time and it failed. It ran into this error. It's like, let me see what I can do about that. Let me see if I can fix that error, right? Which I think is really, really cool and super powerful for kind of that iterative loop. And here I can bring up a slide of us talking about that, but it's really, where is it?
Zoom that out a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. So this is from our presentation as well, but we'll talk through this because it'll help kind of contextualize what we're talking about in terms of like that iteration. So like traditionally, right, like most of us like PowerShell developers, or at least back in the day, right, we have we have a human goal, we have a context on what we should do. We sit down at our computers, we open up our favorite editor of choice, and we write some PowerShell code, right? Open up Stack Overflow, copy in some existing code, maybe some existing scripts, copy it in, and then once we're feeling comfortable with it, this is the graphic on the left here. We execute it and we review it, right? And if there's something wrong,
yeah, if you're just sitting there writing code as an individual, it's pretty simple, right?
Pretty simple. It's just as an individual, right? Now with these AI tools, right? Now it's more humans giving guidance and validating that the code is exactly what we want, right? And so it's us giving it a prompt. AI will suggest some code based on our prompt and what information we're giving it. And then from there, we'll take a look at that, right? It'll output something good, hopefully. And then we'll take a look at it. We'll refine it. We'll approve and make sure it's good. If it's not, we'll send it back and it'll send it back to us. And then we give it more feedback. We give it saying, hey, can you do this? Do X, Y, and Z, right? That's kind of the newer, like single user, single person AI feedback loop that at least I've started to adopt, as I've started to use LLMs a lot more to generate pretty much all of my PowerShell scripts at this point.
Yeah.
It's at this point, it's like I start with my LLM, start developing there, and I continue to use it to make iterations and improvements. It's not necessarily vibe coding, as I would like to say. It's whereas what we kind of did for a web app, it's more like involved. You're actually looking at the code, you're understanding the code, understanding what it's doing, and then guiding the LLM to do what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just to round this out, the right side here is a little bit more forward-looking. When Danny and I were putting this presentation together, I was kind of reflecting on, like, why do I want to review every single edit the AI makes? I mean, ultimately, you need to review it before you run it. But if it's generating code that just doesn't align with the goal or whatever, it's really nice to get some, I'm gonna use air quotes here because we're talking about robots, but diversity of thought in the process, right? Whether that's in the generation process or in the review process. And so my kind of forward-looking idea is it'd be really neat to use agentic AI to review the code before it even gets sent to you to review it. And GitHub CoPilot kind of does that. So we're getting into the space with just what's out of the box there. But I think it'd be really neat to even build kind of your own workflow that could do this. And you can see on the right side, I'm using ChatGPT 5.1 thinking to generate the code. That's by design. In my opinion, that's one of the strongest code generating LLMs that are available today. My answer or my response to that might change in a couple of weeks, but right now that's where it's at. And whereas Gemini and Grok are better at they're better at other things. I can talk more about that later, but I think having them as more of the reviewer makes sense.
No Claude mention. Whoa.
Claude's okay. I don't mind Claude. It's not part of my workflow, to be honest. I don't use it.
See, yeah, we were using Claude inside of VS Code. I've actually started to, I'm coming around to Claude. I mean, Claude is supposed to be, like it's supposed to be a combination of like a lot of different LLMs, right? So, and I think like there's actually an auto feature in GitHub Copilot where it'll select the LLM that's gonna fit your best, like basically if that fits the best, which I think is kind of the future too of like, we always like get caught up in like all these different models, these different things. It does these things better. I think the future is going to be a lot of automatic kind of determinations for your model that it's going to use, or what model it's going to use, what information you use is based on what you're prompting it for, right? And so I think that forward looking very far in the future, I think, and not that far in the future, I don't think. I think that'll kind of become a standard of just kind of having like an automatic like language LLM selector for lack of a better term, that kind of picks what's going to fit your best use case, right? Like even Gemini, we were talking about Gemini is Gemini generated this slide, right? So it's very good at those like slide generation, making things that are like human readable versus having like garbled text images. I'm sure if you've used like ChatGPT's like Sora or OpenAI's Sora, like you'll see sometimes it'll misspell words, it'll make up words that don't exist, right? So yeah, pretty interesting for the future.
It's always changing. I've been lauding Claude for quite a while, so maybe you guys can check it out a little bit more. And I want to say, like on that slide, what you're showing with GitHub Copilot, thank you.
Oh yeah.
What you're seeing with GitHub Copilot there, I think that you even show like if you're doing just the kind of basic AI feedback, you copy paste script from ChatGPT, even if you're just using some of the stuff in Copilot, like you're seeing here, you are saving yourself a ton of clicks, copy, pasta, this and that. That over time seriously adds up to be an incredible amount. If you're going to be writing code and doing stuff in IT like this, you're going to have a probably AI companion forever. You should figure out what works best for you. And currently, I don't know if there's any that have can hold much of a candle up to GitHub Copilot in that space.
Yeah, I agree. I think GitHub Copilot is definitely like, it's just that we had a slide too comparing kind of like just like like a web-based browser versus GitHub Copilot and like in IDE AI assistants, and just having that built-in integration is so big. I mean, yeah, like you said, it saves a ton of time. Like I don't have to go back and forth. I don't have to copy. I don't have to figure out what it tried to do, right? Like, and it has context, right, of what we've done in the past and what good looks like to us. So it just makes things a lot, I think, easier and faster for people to get started.
Yeah, and I was going to show one more thing. Danny was showing GitHub Copilot in VS Code, which is super convenient and a great way to use it if you're working in a repository in VS Code. And I could have used it in this case, but in this specific instance, I just wanted to just quickly show that you can also use this feature on the web. And that lets you just kind of see the same sort of workflow in a different way. It lets you can actually interact with it. It's grayed out down here because it's not active, but when I gave it this initial prompt that you're seeing here, and it started doing its work, and if I saw it generating code or thinking about something that just didn't align with what I was going for, I could have midstream sort of said, no, don't do that. Please instead do X, Y, Z, and redirected it before it got to it being completed. And by the way, like I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to basically create this automated workflow using GitHub Actions. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, but guess who doesn't know how to write GitHub Actions? This guy. So I knew it needed to be done, but I didn't know exactly how to do it. Not to say I can't research it and learn, but in the spirit of sort of vibe coding and getting things done quickly, this morning I gave it this prompt describing what I was trying to do, and it went ahead and created a build pipeline and a PowerShell script. I was pretty specific. I wanted to have a PowerShell script to actually do this build workflow. So yeah, that's just another example. Andrew, let me know if there's any questions, because if not, I'll go to Spark next and show a couple things there.
Go for it. I'm thinking of like, do I want to chit chat about this more? Because I do have a lot of interesting thoughts, and you all have been like pushing this AI needle in our space for quite a while. Maybe that's for a podcast coming soon where I can probe you all a little bit more about AI, because this stuff we're talking about now, it's going to change over time. Like you're saying, your favorite model now, guaranteed, like over the 6 months, 12 months, as time goes on, that's going to keep changing.
Different.
So, yeah, exactly. But there's some patterns that are going to be consistent. And I think you all are showing some of those that are like, no matter what, like you're going to need to be focusing on these things, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. Here's another simple example. This morning, I was trying to finish up this repository, and it's not done. It'll be. I just need to do. You saw I have one agent session active. I need to finish up. So actually, I can probably hop over there and show you all like what it means to finish that up. But this is an example of when I was generating the style guide, there were certain things that I wanted to be part of my style that I wasn't necessarily exhibiting in the scripts that I use as examples. And so I basically told AI to fill in the gaps using some existing style guides that are out there. And I picked 2 specific style guides and provided them as like, a specific example that I wanted to follow. But, to be a good steward of other people's ideas, I wanted to give these folks who generated these style guides a proper shout out and also be compliant with any licensing requirements. So but I didn't want to like look into it too far. I didn't want to like spend a lot of time like enumerating all the people and when exactly they were active in the repository, what licensing was in place, and how I needed to acknowledge that. So I used AI to do that, and this helped me out. It just saved me a ton of time. So, anyways, sorry, this is a chat. I apologize. That's not an agent. I did this in an agent, and I'm showing the wrong thing. Where is that closed? Here. Yeah, so I basically took the same prompt here, and it went ahead and updated everything for me. So just kind of a nice way to save some time. Again, it needs to be done, but you don't want to spend the time doing it. Let me show the active agent just and how you can wrap this up. So when you give it a prompt, I'll just scroll up here to show what I was doing. I wanted to adjust the way it was nesting code fences, if you follow what I'm saying. You got markdown inside markdown kind of thing. You need to kind of escape that properly. And I wanted to adjust the way I was doing that because I wasn't actually doing it in a compliant way. So I basically gave it some guidelines around what I wanted to change and said, go do it. And so it spun up a container, and it's gone ahead and figured out what it needed to do, and it made all the changes. And if I scroll down, it's done. And let me see. Where is it? Oh, view pull request.
Claude Sonnet 4.5.
Yeah, it's using Claude, exactly. Yeah, I didn't tell it differently. I could have said don't use that. I don't have a problem with Claude. It's not my normal go-to. But anyway, if I go here, I can see it made 4 commits, which this hilariously inflates your commit graph in your contributions graph.
Oh, I saw your commit graph out of 1,000 this year, dude. I saw it.
Well, yeah, I've only started. In my defense, I've only recently started using this. So the 1,000 is mostly real, but in the last couple of days, I think I've had over 200 commits, and I'm sitting here at a conference, and I actually listening to sessions. So to me, it's just funny to show it inflated like that. But anyway, here's the commits it made, and then ultimately I can go back over to what am I doing? I'm sorry. Pull request. To here, I can add a review. Let's see what it did. What's nice is this workflow, as opposed to the one that you saw in VS Code, is this is creating a branch automatically and doing all the work in a branch. It's more of a proper like
CI/CD
development workflow, DevOps style development workflow. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, so I can see what it edited here. It's just clarifying exactly what I wanted to do. I actually already looked at this code, so I'm just breezing through this, and I can basically say, yeah, okay, this is good. You should actually read this. I did already in a session. I just didn't complete it. So I'm going to submit a review saying this is approved, and then I'm going to complete the pull request here in a second. I don't know why it's saying it's still ready for review. Okay, there we go. Merge pull request. Yeah, confirm the merge,
Mhm.
and it's now done. So it's gone ahead and done that. I can delete the branch as well. I probably should. We're not leaving trash everywhere. All right. And now if I go back to the code, I'm not going to hammer through it, but it's now live. It went ahead and merged it. You can see that there. That's kind of cool. It's just a little bit of a different flavor of the same thing.
Heck yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so everybody hopefully remembers the hackathon prompt that I mentioned, the inclusivity focused app where people can set their communication preferences. And this is a big shout out to Donnie Taylor. He sort of inspired me to use Spark. Spark, I was aware of it, but it wasn't really on my radar, something I would consider using day to day. So we tried a few different approaches. We didn't like all go all in on Spark initially, in full disclosure, but we did ultimately kind of coalesce around using Spark, and so it created an automatic project called Workplace Harmony. I gave it Danny did a OCR of the prompt, like the actual set of requirements for the app that we had to build. He took a picture of it on his phone and sent me the text, and I basically copy pasted it into Spark with some additional context, and we basically vibe coded this thing. So what it's doing right now, if people haven't used Spark, is it's spinning up a container to host the application. There it is. So we called the application Wavelength. Shout out to Jackie. We had a product manager on our team. Yeah,
much needed.
Yes, and she had a lot of great ideas about how to basically improve the way this thing looked and felt and make it more usable. And so I think that helped position us really well. So, and other things like the colors and stuff, we had like a hideous red color scheme out of the gate. So let me sign in here. Hopefully I remember my password. This is probably storing credentials in plain text. We didn't quite get to fully securing this thing.
Yeah, we didn't build it for scale. We built it for a demo.
Yes.
I think we could have sold some investors on this, to be honest with you. But yeah, this is an actual website.
Yeah, Prestige Worldwide, investors, possibly you. Okay, anyway, update your preferences just to show you. So one of the things we did is nobody on our team is or was willing to admit that they have ADHD or have autism or anything like that. So while we're generally aware of those conditions, we didn't necessarily have a full understanding of all the things we might need to worry about for folks that have that going on. So before we got any coding done or any of this vibe coding, we actually initially did some AI-based research on, hey, for folks with these conditions and similar types of conditions or preferences, what are the things we need to be asking or setting preferences for? And I was very explicit when we did this that they needed to be binary, true or false type of entries. And I knew we needed to do binary because, Andrew, you'll remember we did that. We have a PowerShell project out there called PS auto categorize with PS. That's what it is. Auto categorize with PS. And I knew that from that project that it's important. And when you're kind of grouping people together that are similar, you need to have either binary true false type flags set or like numerical settings set for different preferences. I knew that was something we needed in order to be able to easily find people that have similar preferences. So no free text entry, no sort of ambiguous entries, that kind of thing. But you can click on each of these and you can see all the preference setting you can do. I think I've got some that are not set. So if you don't set it at all, it shows up like this because maybe you don't want to answer the question or maybe you just didn't get to it. So we did this based on some AI-based research, which is pretty cool. And then the last thing, we're getting off the topic here a little bit from PowerShell, but the last thing just to show it is, this is all sample data, but it did match you up with people that had similar preferences to you. So that's kind of neat. We ended up getting second place for this, which is cool.
Yeah, second. I'll take it.
Yep.
Earlier, excuse me, Frank, I believe you said you won second place. So winning means different things in different places, but I mean, that is a really awesome project. You can't take away from that. It's a little bit of a win's a win, right?
A win is a win. A win is a win.
No, I was really happy with honestly. So the hackathon was pretty fun. They John Tolles and team introduced what they call the chaos wheel, which made it pretty interesting. So at the end it got more frequent, but I think it was every 30 minutes, every hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had this wheel that they spun twice. The first spin is to find out which team was affected by the spin, and the second spin was to determine what was going to happen to that team. And we got banned from AI in the last 45 minutes or
that was rough. That was terrible. That was terrible. Yeah, we are not front end developers. We are not back end developers.
No.
We're web applications. So it was tough. But,
yeah. So we kind of had to stop doing Spark vibe coding and instead focus on what it is we were going to present.
Yeah,
yeah. So,
we spent the last 45 minutes figuring out how we we're going to present the thing. So at that point we were done. We were gonna we're gonna introduce like Enter ID, authentication into it, set up SSO, but we ran out of time. Our buttons are there though to do it.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
absolutely.
there's,
we have a backend admin interface too. I didn't show that here, but we have a backend admin interface that lets you set like connection strings for SQL and stuff like that. This is dumb. I apologize. Maybe some of you are Spark experts. I'm not. And it took me a solid 10 minutes to figure out. So you're writing all this code, right? Or not writing code. You're vibe coding all this stuff, and you can view the code by clicking on here, viewing the code, which is pretty cool. It's a lot of TypeScript. And so I'm like looking at the code here, and I'm like, how the heck do I get this in a repository? Where is this sitting? It wasn't in any of my repositories. Well, spoiler alert: if you are creating a new Spark and you like what you see and you want to put it in a repository, if you hit this like dot button, there's a create a repository button here, which my dumb butt wasn't aware of, and it took me a little while to find that. So just a little pro tip. And then once you have this ready and you want to show it off, it's actually available on the web. You can publish it to the web, I should say, excuse me, and you can say who can access it. If you're part of a GitHub organization, you can limit it to your organization. I'm not in this case, so you can say it's either private to me or all GitHub users. You do have to authenticate with your GitHub account in order to access it. So there's a little bit of a front end there, but this app's live right now. If you do go poke around with this, that's fine. Please don't use any real passwords, because I'm just telling you, I bet this thing's storing passwords in plain text.
it's somewhere.
Yeah, so just assume whatever you enter is compromised, please. Don't hold me accountable on the security. We didn't focus on that during the vibe coding.
That sounds fun. Anyway. We should do one of those in the future, PowerShell Wednesday, where we just vibe code some random thing.
Yeah,
dude, for real. It was a lot of fun. And like Danny said, I mean, really the reason we went this route is because nobody on our team, like we had like Mike Niehaus, dude's a powerhouse in PowerShell, and even back in the day, like DB scripts. Guy wrote he wrote the precursor to MDT. Yeah, so super sharp dude. We had me and Danny on the team. Nathan McNulty. That dude is super sharp with anything Entra, Defender, and then we had a Jackie as well. He's like a product manager. A little bit of diversity of thought there. Yep. But we didn't have any front end devs, so they're like build a web app, and we all sort of looked at each other like, well, crap. None of us know how to do that.
Start the AI. Let's start there. That's a good start.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that you started off the competition with no front end devs, but you ended it as second place winning front end devs.
Well, right. So two things. So we lost AI 45 minutes before the end, right? We didn't have a front end dev at all, and we were down one person. So that was the other thing. We only had 5 people on our team as opposed to 6 because somebody ended up not being able to come. So we were down a person also. So we had some
disadvantages.
Yeah, there you go. Disadvantages. There you go.
Man, you didn't give up though, coach, and you stuck with it. You never did. It got tough in the 4th inning, but you stuck it out, and you got second place.
Run through the tackle. Run through the tackle. Run through the man. Yep.
Right. Visualize it.
Visualize.
That's cool. It sounds like you guys got some interesting takeaways from that, and sounds like the conference had some pretty clever ways of getting people engaged and thinking and talking about some things that are not as normal for IT people to maybe talk about at a conference. I'm curious to see how the rest of it goes for you. Maybe if you meet up afterwards, take some ideas to PowerShell Summit.
Absolutely.
Some things that worked well and whatever didn't.
I think one of my favorite things here was like they have these things called Clippy Bucks, basically. But basically, speakers have like this fake cash they can give out to attendees, and you can exchange that cash for like our badges are actually pretty cool. They have like little removable tiles and stuff, and you can buy like rare tiles and stuff. But you can also use them to buy like T-shirts or get a T-shirt. You trade like 20 Clippy Bucks, which is just like 4 of the bills for like a hoodie or a sweat or like a shirt or something like that. So it encourages more. I would say audience engagement. I feel like here I've had personally like a lot of people be engaged with our sessions, asking a lot of questions. It's a bit more of an intimate setting. Like, I mean, it's probably only like 40, 50 people a room sometimes smaller. So, but I think that was a huge thing that I think we could definitely bring PowerShell DevOps Summit as well as other conferences. I mean, I think it's just a good way to incentivize people to,
just engage, ask questions.
Yep. It's the same core problems at every conference. Like, how do we get people to get out of their shell? Every single time they do, they have an amazing time, but it's really hard to get people to do that. So always got to be clever to get people to do what's best for themselves. Once they see the light, though, like you all, they get hooked. So
yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll have to have some chats in the future. This guy, Danny Stutz, he's never did a proper PowerShell podcast episode. I'll tell you what, this guy's got stories. He's got a history. He's got some knowledge he's got to share with us. So awesome. Frank, y'all know Frank. I mean, come on, check out the PowerShell podcast.
Absolutely.
Chats with him. But yeah, we got your socials in the description below. You want to plug it? Just say it out loud. Where can we find you, people?
So you can find me pretty much by searching for my first and last name on any platform. I don't have a very creative handle, but yeah, that's how you can find me. I'm on X, Blue Sky. You saw my GitHub. I'm on Mastodon if you use that. I'm on LinkedIn. So those are all the easy ways to find me. What about you, Danny?
Yep, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky. Those are probably the best ways to get in the hold of me, find me, connect me. Definitely interested in meeting some new people, so feel free to reach out. But yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, thank you guys so much. You can find me on socials at Andrew Plau Tech. I was thinking recently about stepping myself up in the world and being like, I'm Andrew Plau the 11th. Even though I'm not the first, but you know what I mean? They're like, whoa, I've never heard of it. Andrew Plau ever.
Yeah, you got someone to do it.
We'll see.
You got someone to it. You got someone to do it.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for having fun with us, sharing some awesome tips with us. And you've inspired me to dabble around with GitHub CoPilot. I got roasted a couple weeks ago, so down a notch.
Saw that. Yeah, saw that. That's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's fun.
Awesome.
Man. It's fun. Well, thank you guys so much. And yeah, everybody check us out every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. Every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for PowerShell Wednesday. Dang, that's the second time I've done PowerShell Wednesday on a Tuesday. Yikes. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care, and thank you to Danny Stutz and Frank Lesniak.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Plau. Thank you, everyone. And thanks for joining us today.